the red light's on. This is when all the pressure happens. I'm sure
Right.
you're feeling it right now, right?
Like pressure. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Butters, right?
Cool. Awesome. Why don't we start off with doing a quick sound check? Why don't you tell my listeners what you had for breakfast this morning?
You know what? I don't eat breakfast. I'm a big faster, so I do a lot of fasting, and so I didn't eat breakfast, but I did have a coffee, which was
okay. All right. So the coffee still fits into that equation.
I guess it was a morning consumption, so yeah, we'll count it.
All right. That's that. All right. Sounded good. So let's jump into it. So why don't you tell my listeners what you what you just finished up crowdfunding for and what your product is?
Yeah, great. So I successfully completed the Kickstarter in December 12th. It was great. It started on November 11th at 11:11 and ended at December 12th at 12:12. So that was like a fun little numbers game that we played with it as well. And what I did was, it was a campaign that supported our business, which is called PranaCure. In Sanskrit, prana is a term that means breathing, or in sort of a more spiritual way, it is the energy that underlies all things that allows life to happen. And that's, I'm grossly simplifying it, but and so PranaCure is a company about teaching people how to use their breath more consciously. And with it, we have a aromatherapy inhaler, which is a little bit of like a gateway tool to help people get into it. So it's aromatherapy inhaler. It is organic, high quality essential oil that's used within it, and it helps people to breathe more deeply. They have different benefits depending on which one you use. And coupled with that, it was a Kickstarter to fund the production of the courses that go with it. So really a package of this great little tool and a learning that would combine to help people really use their breath more effectively.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for our people who are listening that don't have visuals, can you kind of like describe like what does the packaging look like? Is this a big thing, small thing? What is it, something that you carry with you all the time? How do you sort of like visually describe it if you can?
Yeah, I describe it as a friend in all moments. So it's the size of a chapstick tube, almost exactly. In fact, that's been very helpful for production stuff. It unscrews at the bottom, and literally you just put the tip of it in one nostril, you take a long breath, put the tip in the other nostril, take a long breath, and what you get within that breath is this deep inhale of really therapeutic grade essential oils. And so it's good for everything from helping you clear your airways, to breathe more easily, to feel more relaxed, or to just, it's a cheerful kind of an experience. So size of a chapstick container, and operates similarly in terms of opening and closing, and super lightweight.
That's cool.
A great thing.
That's cool. So where's the start of this idea? What does that look like? Why are you working on something like this? What's the inspiration behind it? Like, what's the starting point of this?
Yeah. So my husband and I own a yoga and healing arts center in Haverford, right outside of Philadelphia. And we've both been teaching and practicing yoga for about 20 years, and lots of mindfulness arts. And central to all mindfulness arts is breathing. And it's amazing the power that breath has. We usually think about breath as an outcome of something, like in a primal sense, I just ran from a bear and now I'm taking these deep gasping breaths. But in like a regular everyday sense, I feel irritated at what you're saying, so I'm taking a big heavy sigh and rolling my eyes. Or I feel nervous about something and I'm about to, do a podcast with Jeff.
Right. So nervous. I did a whole breathing treatment right before I got on. I was so nervous.
I know. So breath has many outcomes, but also what a lot of us don't realize is just like, we've been breathing since we got here. We're going to breathe till we leave. And so the breath actually has a lot of power to create different circumstances in your body. And yoga has been teaching this for thousands and thousands of years. And so when people come to learn yoga, we always start with the breathing. And we teach very traditional yoga. And so when people learn that, it can be anyone from, we have a whole spectrum of people who learn this. It can be, we have people who have had a stroke and need to sort of regain their cognitive capacity and just mobility. We have Olympians who are working on performance, people who are just stressed out, CEOs, college students, high school students trying to get into college, So the spectrum of people who are benefited by learning breath techniques is vast, and it is such a simple thing. You can, go to New Mexico on a week retreat to get more relaxed and come back and be just as stressed out, or
Mm-hmm.
you might take 10 minutes to learn something very simplistic. So the breathers, as we call them, are sort of a tool where you instantly recognize that. Never do I hand one to someone and they put it in their nose and they're like, eh.
Yeah.
It's always like a kind of a wow experience, and you realize the impact of just taking a long breath. And I think that bridges people, because a lot of us, meditation might seem like a far off concept, especially for someone who is in a high powered life or someone who has just a lot going on. Just being able to slow themselves down like that can be really complex. So it was born in a lot of ways out of this depth of discipline in yoga and mindfulness practices. And on the other side, I also do a lot of work with plants and a lot of herbology. And so, I have a lot of different products, but within the studio, it really was a testing ground for that. And we spent about 2 years just letting people do everything. We had the sprays and the oils and all that stuff, but this was a thing where people would start to come to me and say, this needs to grow into something else. And it was really that. A little story that I think is really what tipped us over, and this was a big part of the Kickstarter page as well, is that my father is 76 and is like a man's man kind of a guy, an athlete his whole life. It would have made a lot of sense for him to do yoga, but sometimes even the people closest to you can't
Yeah,
make
I'm
those
aware.
inroads. But he had a lot of health issues, and he had a bad head injury about 10 years ago, very bad head injury, subarachnoid hemorrhage, was in the ICU for a long time. It was a very scary time. And the repercussions of that, he healed from it, but the repercussions of that have been he has a lot of pressure in his head. And as he's gotten older, his blood pressure fluctuates a lot. And so, I got really involved in his health because I could tell that he needed some extra support, as we all do when we navigate something complex. And so everywhere we went, they were like, Mike, you should really try some meditation and mindfulness. Have you thought about this? And he just sort of looked forward and not at me and just nod like, yes, I've heard this before. But as I was producing these, I gave him some of them. And I was like, you should tell me what you think about these. Was really a little bit of it more so. And a week or two later, I was at an appointment with him. I took one out. I always have them. My husband and I have them in like every pocket in the car, all over the place, like breathers everywhere. I took it out and he said, I really love the peppermint one. And I looked at him and I was kind of like surprised. I said, are you using them? He said, yes, I've been practicing my breathing with them every day. And so I really realized the gateway potential of them for helping someone into something that seems kind of foreign, and especially for someone who's in his 70s, like it wasn't part of his upbringing in the same way that it is now. So
yeah, that's great. That's great that you can have the ability to get through there, or like to connect even on that level too. That's awesome. And you mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is like a course packet, or there's like, there's other stuff that goes with these too that you're providing somebody as well, right?
That's right. The second part of the Kickstarter, the first part was the funding of the production of them, and the second part was the production of the breathers, and the second part was each of those breathers is connected to a course that teaches something relevant to that particular breather. So there are disciplines of breathing that are uplifting, there are disciplines of breathing that are relaxing, there are disciplines that are helping you to purify and clear stuff out of your body. And so that really aligns with what the breathers are designed to do themselves. And so we have a whole package, which we're actually producing right now with the breathers, so that people can get the breather, but also then have online access to content that teaches them breathing.
Yeah, that's great. So is there like a specific, I should use this breather in the morning? I mean, you mentioned like the peppermint one. Is it something like I use this one in the morning, this one at night, this one during the day? Or am I trying to identify, like, I'm feeling anxious right now, I should use this one? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, a little bit of it is just personal preference.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't like lavender.
Sure. Right.
Lavender, if you don't like it, not relaxing. Don't like
I just put this in my nose and I hate it, but
yes,
the book told me I had to.
Most people, so I picked things that are pretty universal. I didn't put like sage in here, patchouli and stuff like that. That's like people have some smells. People just are one, like it's kind of like black licorice. You're
Sure. Yeah.
one way or the other about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are combinations that are designed because of the therapeutic properties, and also they're intended to smell good together. So those therapeutic properties, some of them have anti-inflammatory qualities, some of them have just stilling, relaxing qualities. And so they're put together in a way that the person who uses them should be able to feel the impact of that.
Sure. Sure. What, for somebody who's working in a product like this, what are the steps that you had to first start taking to, produce like, I guess, a spray? I mean, are there FDA rule? What does that whole world look like? Are you, is there formulas, scientists?
Yeah.
Are you in the back making stuff? What's happening?
It's interesting. One of the things that came out of this, so I'm not sure if it's good or not yet, but maybe this is just a sentiment that's really nice for Kickstarter folks overall, is that nothing about launching this Kickstarter went as I thought it was going. Talking to you actually in the beginning, this was what led to my Facebook post and what led to this whole conversation in the first place, is talking to you. You were like, Nadia, here's some things you should know. And I was like, crap. That's not what I said.
Yeah.
So there's things, and I will say honestly that I really I am a deep researcher, and because of my field and because of what I do, I mean, I work with people. I have people who have had concussions.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really understand your field and your craft when you're in my field. That is to say, there are lots of people who do stuff quickly. That's just not me, and that's not the product that I wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important to me that the integrity of that was sound, regardless of what the regulations and everything were around it. But so I launched this Kickstarter, and one of the people in the studio, and who has become one of my very best friends, is on-air talent at QVC. And so I said to her, hey, can you post this to your audience? And she says, and so instead of doing that, she like group texts me with a buyer at QVC and was like, look at these products. And now I'm on the phone shaking, not prepared to talk to someone at QVC who's a buyer. I'm like,
right.
And he knew, and he was like, Nadia, I don't really talk to people at this stage. But one of the questions for QVC is like, there is a rigorous sort of understanding of it, just like for Kickstarter. I couldn't use the word congestion for Kickstarter. Right. That was like a big flag. There are things to think about if you're thinking about something like this. If you're going to run a campaign like this, you want to really have a sense of that. So there were unexpected things that came along for me where, there is lots and lots of, way more than I actually understood that there were, but there's lots of research that's been done internationally, and you can find a lot of this in the NIH. They have a whole website devoted to research projects that have been done on the benefits of aromatherapy and of the certain qualities of certain kinds of aromatherapy, therapeutically, not just smelling good. That said, it is a highly unregulated world. The world of just like herbs are, Chinese herbs, highly unregulated, and that causes a lot of trouble. So if you're starting something like this, I think it's really important that you make the decision to use a high level of integrity in what you are producing and to really understand your craft, or to get someone who does. If you're the business person, like if you're the marketing business person, then make sure that someone on your team needs to really understand this stuff, because you're dealing with people's health in a lot of ways. And I had a guy in here the other day who's part of our community whose mom is very sick with cancer, and she's going through chemo, and he said, which of these will be good for her? And I said, go right back to her doctor, and none of these right now don't even diffuse nothing. Probably some things will help her, and also depending on what's going on with you and your constitution in your life, regardless of whether you're perfectly in health or whether you're congested or whether you have some major thing going on, all of those things need to be taken into account. And so we really have done that. And I think a big part of what's really important if you get into a field where you're offering something that helps people and is health related, is that you are very clear with them that they need to understand what their situation is before and you need to not make claims that would lead them to feel that they are that they don't need to do that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting. Now, you have is it you and your husband? You guys have a yoga facility, correct?
Yeah, I'm sitting in it.
Yeah. Okay. And how did this product sort of you have a business, and how are you starting to kind of make this sort of, hey, we should have these extra products? Like what does those conversations kind of look like, especially if somebody's thinking about, I want to add 2 or 3 things to my current life, my current business. How does that sort of fit into kind of conversations, and also maybe like spreading of your time, right? Like, I'm going to go work on this for a while, and I've got this other business. How do you guys kind of navigate those waters?
Um, Business wise, I think it's important that anything that you develop works within the umbrella of what you already do. Like, I
Hmm.
didn't go do like a tire repair shop,
Right, right.
like tire repair glue or something that
Yeah.
I don't really, doesn't really fit within my field. So if you're a mechanic, you know, and you see that lots of people come in and have like burst tires and
You
could
have the
benefit
glue.
from you can make the
I got the
glue.
glue. Yeah, I got the glue
Number
in my
one,
garage. I can do
number
this.
one, yes, if you solve someone's problem by something you have made yourself, that is fantastic because it's your own thing, fits under your brand. And also, there's so many ways now. I mean, it is an amazing time to be alive and to be able to really have the entrepreneurial oomph that we have. You
Mhm.
can make an e-commerce site pretty easily and do really,
Yep.
really well for yourself, which would have required a lot different of an approach even 10 years ago. So one thing is understanding the infrastructure that is there for you to build upon. And I think that that's something that Derek and I did early, is we really understood that there was an infrastructure that could be built on. The hardest thing for us probably is the brick and mortar, because it has so much more overhead than a lot of people could probably do really well without needing to have a brick and mortar, especially if you have a product that is easy, like the breathers are very easily
Mhm.
distributable, I guess is that a
Right.
word.
Yeah.
So whatever you pick should be something that you're in love with. We use Teachable actually to house a lot of our online courses to start. And I remember I went to one of their conferences, or just like an event, and and one of the people asked, what asked the person who was presenting. They said, what is it that you see that it most prevents people from being successful? And she thought for a minute. I thought this was so insightful. She said, generally, the enthusiasm around having started something wears out long before you have overcome the trouble to have developed
Yes.
the momentum and the foothold.
Mhm.
And that is definitely the case. So if you know you're someone who quits early, then set yourself up to not be able to quit, right? So like, in some way, figure
Yeah.
out how to prevent that. Because right now, still, I'm trying to expand this line based on what we've accomplished, and I'm like, the things that you run into are so annoying, and that annoyance can really slow you down
Sure.
too. So you should have a real passion around it and a level of expertise that should fit in your wheelhouse, um, and not be too far outside of that, so that the same values that have made you successful in the first thing can be applied and expanded to the things that
Sure.
are their addition.
Sure. Let's flip over to the actual Kickstarter. So so you ended up raising, I don't have it in front of me here,
Like
just under
16.
about 16,000, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I know when we chatted, I was impressed where you were at that point, because I think this is a hard product to crowdfund in general, right? It was, I think
Sweating.
that's a lot of our conversation was around,
Yeah.
it's not your traditional tech widget thingy that you
Yeah.
see in the crowdfunding space. So I'm curious, when you're talking about the research, what did you, as you were kind of diving in, go, I think this would be a good fit? What was kind of those early things that were triggering, yeah, we should try this to launch this product?
Well, for better for worse, I have a background in fundraising. For 10 years before I did what I do now, before we had the center, I raised money. I've raised millions of dollars for different charities, which I'm like super proud of. I'm so glad that that was the first part of my life. It's equally as difficult, and I don't have a problem asking people for money if I really believe in something. And I think that that's a skill you must have as an entrepreneur as well. And if the businessy side doesn't feel as good, then nonprofit development is a great place to
Sure,
apply that
sure.
skill. Um, so I looked at it, I thought, I've done fundraising walks, I've done events, and so there was that end, is that I felt comfortable that I would be able to, and I had a base of community here. So I had a whole, 5 years of people who've been in and out, who I felt that would be excited about it since they were familiar with it. And then on the other side of it was, for doing this, because there's just such an obvious benefit of building a little bit of an audience and getting a sense of patterns and patterning when you do something like this, which actually turned out not to be really the way that it goes at all. But that was my thinking as I went towards it. I thought, okay, well, good, then I'll cultivate orders, and then I will know. Sort of, I wanted to see the systems and ideas that I had put together. Also, I wanted to see life breathe into that, so I could actually understand whether or not I could do this at a volume that I was anticipating that I could.
Yeah, interesting. What was maybe while you were in the middle of it or while it was ending, what would you say is like the biggest lesson that you took out of it that you would, give that information to somebody else? What would you pass on of like,
They should
this
call
was the
you.
biggest thing? Well,
Call you first.
outside of that,
I really believe
everybody
that.
call.
I really believe, I have to be honest with you, Jeff, because if I hadn't had that conversation with you, I posted that on your page. If I hadn't had that conversation with you, it would have changed how you need, that's also to say 3,000 people who will sell you every list under the sun. And I remember this happened when we opened the studio too. People call you up and they want to fix your Google ads and they want to do all that stuff. There's whole companies that just wait till people to open stuff and then sort of go in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so I mean that genuinely, and I think you had, and I loved your sort of, you just gave your time. It was a selfless giving of expertise, which is really a key thing for us to think about. When someone is invested in people's success in the beginning, you want that person on your insight team, and maybe not everyone. I mean, a lot of people are trying to raise $5,000 or whatever. It's like not really what is necessary for everyone. But if you are doing something and you really want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, knowing what you told me on that call would have completely changed how I spent 3 months prior to that.
Right.
And so, and that is to say that I also spent a huge amount of time watching people's, like, this person did $100,000 in Kickstarter. I watched all those videos. So I did a lot of that.
Right.
So you really need to understand the algorithms of Kickstarter. After I was successful at this, I'm in a few business groups and I posted it like, thank you guys for supporting. And people were like, do you think that Kickstarter is a good method to test proof of concept? I was like, no,
not anymore.
Well, the understanding of what it does.
Yeah.
So you need to like really get your ducks in a row as far as the amount of time that you need to spend building your audience. Thank God that I had this audience already, because it would have gone absolutely nowhere. Right. And I think it's easy to get on Kickstarter and look at the ones that are there and go, oh yeah, there was one of like Robo plates on there that was did like $300,000. I was like, if this dude can do porcelain robot plates, this is gonna work.
Right.
And I have all this, and so I had a lot in place that I think maybe people don't, just from my background. And even so, it was an immense undertaking for me. So it wouldn't have been had I done a few things differently. So I think it's really important that you do the work of building an audience who's excited about it, and not anticipate that just because you are super pumped about what you do and it's something that is really, really valuable, the Kickstarter is going to be like, well, this thing.
Yeah, she's excited. We'll just take that one. That's the one.
That's right. Yes, that's right. And we do that to it. That denial is, I think, what sinks a lot of people.
Yeah.
I backed a few projects that I really, really loved, that I really wanted that product, and the goal was like $80,000.
Might not happen.
Not good. And it didn't, and that sucks.
Right. Yep. That interesting. Well, you're now about almost a month after the campaign. What's kind of what kind of things have been happening? Are you noticing even maybe more wins in the community, more wins amongst your peers, just in terms of like maybe healthier collisions because this was successful as opposed to not being successful? Are you noticing anything, any sort of upticks, anything, or anything along those lines? Or is it maybe a little bit too early to tell?
Yeah, I did the fulfillment. So I fulfilled everything that I needed to. And that was fantastic because it let me really, I was ready to perform on that. And so that was really fantastic. So I got that out. I also created, through this, really meaningful new partnerships with people that were really unexpected. And I've had some people come through for different things that I won't get into yet because they're just fledgling, that would not have happened. So a lot of things happen when you're successful with a Kickstarter that people go, oh, you're serious. I think it's a level of someone goes, oh, you're not, this isn't like a hobby. You're going to do this. And also, so I'm really in a place of like, leveling up to the next stuff, making sure the site doesn't have any kinks in it, and making sure that it's all really smooth sailing and reflects the value of the product itself. All of those things have to sort of work together. So
That's
I'm
cool.
really very much in that place.
Well, what does the let's talk about kind of what does the next year look like for the breathers? Is there more products? What does sort of the next year look like right now for you?
Yeah. So I launched with 3 formulas, and I am going to keep them. I'm going to expand and also have a mist version, and also like a oil rub, because those formulas really translate well into those. And then in the process of refining to those, I also have like 6 other ones that could have been those that aren't the core, and so they'll become seasonal. I'm thinking I'm probably going to do like a subscription based model where people can just people can have that subscription and then get seasonal stuff
Yeah, that'd
just
be cool.
for them, which I think is exciting. And so that's as far as the products. And then a lot of people actually have come about. I live in an area with lots and lots of business. It's like I'm right outside of Philly. It's a great place to live. And so the direction of doing a lot of wholesaling has really pronounced itself. So I'm going to do some of that, and it'll be getting into some retail. I'll do some retail, and just hitting the numbers that I'm anticipating. So it'll be a lot of like meetings with people and getting that together, and I'm sure lots of other things will emerge from there. But the core of what I was intending to do hasn't changed, and the Kickstarter really has kickstarted that. And it was just like which really like this, the real benefit for it, I think, is that places where you would have like and this is something we all do in small businesses, and I think it's really important to do this. Like, you do a lot of things yourself that in order to get it done, or in order to understand the process, that then immediately, as soon as you have the space to do it, should be outsourced. And sometimes just not having the revenue to being prevents you from taking that step for one reason or another. So doing that as a beginning is going to be really fun. And then really letting people enjoy them. I think there's going to be, I want to make sure that I practice that too, because there's a lot of value here that can come to people. And then we'll probably produce more courses too. But the first ones, I'm excited to also donate them. So if people watch this, like schools, underserved schools. Before I did this, I worked for Outward Bound, and we did a lot of work with underserved schools. So I think that's an important thing, to be able to provide programming for kids who could watch it and benefit from it. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to weave all that together and to explore what really works well.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Sounds like it's got some a couple plates spinning, and they're going to be able to work their way together. It sounds awesome. Where can people sort of dive in, learn more, purchase? How can people find you?
Great. Thank you for asking that question. The website is up now. Hopefully it's going to even be better by the time people look at it. It's at PranaCure.com. It's PRANA, cure, CURE.com. And you'll see like the breathers are up there. They can order them. And then one thing that'll be really helpful too is just to join the just to get the emails, because that's when I'll have the subscription stuff, and I'm going to do a lot of content that's specific to it. And we'll start having the videos available soon. I think that probably will be like February, March. So it'll be nice for people to get in at this point to get the announcements, because a lot of the things that are launching are going to launch over the next couple months, and it'll be a good way to stay in the know.
Awesome. Well, Nadia, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to have a conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited for my listeners to, kind of hear your story, hear about what you're working on, hear the journey, and show that not every product has to be a tech widget on Kickstarter, because you can fundraise some other stuff. So, really great job, and obviously we'll have the links to all your websites in the show in the notes on the podcast here. And again, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Nadia. Thanks.
Swim.